For a company that's trying to build its own brand, or we should say its enterprise buyer awareness, you're going to get their attention not through advertising. It helps, of course, right? The more of a quantitative piece. But you have to get their attention by giving them something that they haven't heard, saw, read, thought of before. And the only way to do that is to develop a very stringent thought leadership practice. Talk and network. It still matters. Take advice from those who have done the job that you are looking for 5 years, 30 years. The playbook is, I think, combining certain functions, and it's using a level of AI infrastructure to inform how you're going to do certain roles. So the way that we traditionally think about marketing, right, is PR and comms, corporate marketing, partner marketing, revenue marketing, growth marketing, field marketing. That's going to change because all of this now is going to be augmented by AI.
In your opinion, do you think enterprise growth in 2026, it's more becoming relation driven or it is still a brand driven? And what human skills do you think are becoming more valuable because of AI?
Hello and welcome. Thank you for tuning in, where we connect the dots between MarTech and marketing landscape. Stay tuned to MarTech 360 as we explore key strategies for your marketing success.
Hello and welcome to MarTech 360 Conversations, powered by Data Demand, where we explore the intersection of marketing technology, leadership, and enterprise growth. I am Samarth from Data Demand, and today's conversation is about changing identity of modern marketing. We'll talk about AI, we talk about human around AI and human creativity. Since AI is transforming how brands create, communicate, and grow, but at the same time, trust is becoming harder to earn. Buyers are becoming more selective, and marketers are being challenged to think far beyond campaigns and lead generation. And that's what today's conversation is all about. Patrick is Vice President and Global Head of Marketing and External Partnerships at Hitachi Digital Services. With deep experience in the enterprise marketing, strategic partnership, and analyst relationship, along with the influence building through the decision making, his work has focused on helping organizations strengthen market presence, build trusted industry relationship, and align marketing more closely towards a long-term business strategy. Patrick, welcome to MarTech 360.
I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you for having me. It's always great to speak with experts like you guys to see what's happening outside of all the internal discussions that we always have.
Absolutely, Patrick. So great to have you. Patrick, let's start here. Do you think, this is the most uncertain period marketers have faced in the last decade?
Yes and no. So obviously on the yes side, the speed at which this technology is finding itself in a day-to-day ops cycle is no doubt faster than anything else. No, because marketing has always been forced to stay a little bit ahead of the business side because they want to have the best technology to be able to be sales enablers. So we're used to platforms, we're used to automation, we're used to cloud, we're used to mobile apps, and this is obviously B2B, B2C, right across the board. But that was very structured in the way that those types of platforms and offerings were laid out within marketing. And oftentimes it took a while because your company at internally, enterprise-wide, had to be ready for that type of tool as well. Here, the difference is the speed at which it's becoming a part of your day-to-day operations, right? So implementing an email platform used to be a big task, or changing your CMS on the website, right? That was a big step in technology, but now everyone's using it singularly and then using it as a team to impact it. So the difference, I think, is really just the speed at which it's here.
Right. And, I completely agree with you. And with so much of experimentation around AI, the speed, scale, automation, all has increased. But, do you think the long-term playbook has yet arrived, or there are uncertainty around, or rather say excitement.
It's there. It's definitely getting there. The playbook is, I think, combining certain functions, and it's using a level of AI infrastructure to inform how you're going to do certain roles. So the way that we traditionally think about marketing, right, is PR and comms, corporate marketing, partner marketing, revenue marketing, growth marketing, field marketing. That's going to change because all of this now is going to be augmented by AI or done by agents under human observation and human intelligence. So the time spent trying to build content is going to become drastically faster. So that role is now going to become someone who's thinking about the thought leadership rather than just creating it, right? Planning for an event, a lot of the logistical checks and balances you need to do. That's going to allow the event person to think about where are we not? How do we create a new type of event that we can draw enterprises to? Same with portfolio marketing. Go ahead, AI, put the story together, but I'll make sure that the creativity and the business value is clear to the next set of buyers. So there's going to be a layer of AI infrastructure behind every pillar. So long-term playbook, it's definitely on its way. I think a lot of marketers are trying to figure out, particularly B2C versus B2B, services industry, product industry, how do you find that right balance? But it's there and it's a value add. And if you can, empower your teams at a leadership level, but also a corporate level on how to leverage AI day in and day out, it's a great tool.
Right. I completely agree. And, you mentioned we have brand, PR, industry analysts, revenue, growth marketing. And I believe all these were working in silos. Now with AI coming in, it is going to be one unified thought process and direction, which is all is integrated. Do you agree on that statement?
Yeah, I mean, I push back very hard against siloed work before AI, with AI, and AI, right? It's always important for the leaders of each of these key pillars to be on the same page in terms of the grand strategy of what you're doing in marketing. Now, obviously, everybody has different KPIs and they leverage one another differently. What AI is going to be able to do is capture that dialogue, right? So every time we have a structured bi-weekly, or we have a regional meeting, or we have a leadership meeting, even simple things like Teams, which is now recording and then synthesizing and then sharing it with everybody, that makes a huge difference because you do so many meetings every day, internal, external. Sometimes you're going to forget what every next step is and what was agreed upon because, you're trying to balance your whole book. So this makes a big difference. But it's important for us as humans to always break down those silos and not just rely on the AI tools to do that.
I agree. And now AI can generate content, campaigns, visuals. You mentioned Teams. Teams is synthesizing the entire, the conversation, pointing out the MOMs. Even the strategies for suggestions in seconds. Have you personally had a moment where AI made you question the future role of human creativity in marketing?
So it hasn't given me a creativity push yet. It's given me a production sunrise for sure. But at the end of the day, the humans are still the ones that are driving the prompt. And the prompt engineering is more important to me than the tool being able to do what it does. Because if we're not giving it the right set of information, the right parameters in which to create it in, right, the right human intelligence creative factor, it's going to take forever to get certain things done. That's number one. Number two, for me, it's not about replacing roles, but it's about redesigning the structure of the job to have AI as a component now of what you do day in and day out. Not to just say, oh, that'll write the case study, right? These things are not perfect. You need to have a level of human intelligence understanding the business buyers and the people that read it and the people that want to read it, how to advertise it, right? That all can be helped and supported by AI. It'll make suggestions like you said, but at the end of the day, you have to have a human commanding the operations of what's happening.
True. And in your opinion, sorry, do buyers remember content, or they remembers how, the entire experience of brands make them feel in today's world?
It's a great question. So certainly in the B2C space, where you're selling a car or you're selling a boat or you're selling an asset that one would buy personally, the experience is super important because that's going to, customer experience now is hugely important in terms of how one gets from top to bottom of the funnel. In B2B, if you're going to implement a new ERP platform across your enterprise, it's hard to experience that until it's actually started. So what then gives you trust as a buyer before you get to that buying stage? It's seeing the type of commentary that the supplier is putting out there around that type of implementation, what their understanding is not only of day to day, but the future of that, right? Their partner ecosystem experience and how they're positioned during the human orals and the discussions with the client about doing it. So I think it makes a bigger difference on the B2C side right now because it's a one-to-one purchase, right? For services, the business we're in, it still requires you to be able to showcase, what you're doing and why you're different, why you're better, why you're faster, why you're going to be a long-term partner, just not a short-term implementation. So all of that still makes a difference.
I completely agree on the analogy of B2B and B2C because B2C, the sales cycles are shorter as well.
Oh, yeah.
On the B2B enterprise level, they take from about 6 months to a year to 2 years, probably 3 years, depending on
Size and scale.
Size, scale, and there are so many things. And that brings me the question about marketing and sales alignment. Because if we not talk about B2C, because the cycles are shorter, the values are the values are shown very easily, and the consumers are able to relate to that and try use it. But when it comes to B2B, sales and marketing alignment has been discussed for years, but there's still, I would say, tension still exists in many organizations. Why do you think the gap still remains?
So I'm okay at a high level of having tension. I think that's healthy, right? Because it's seen as a motivating factor for both sides of the coin. So maybe the sales team is saying, hey, maybe we're not picking the right targets because we're up against competitor X, Y, and Z. Marketing is spending all this time going after this. Maybe we need to think about who we're selling to. Then we can help them go after it. Or marketing may be running an ad campaign against a certain industry that's not of particularly buying strength right now. And it's their job to then work with the sales team to figure that out. So the tension is okay because, and this is the same with delivery and account management, et cetera, right? You need a little bit of that to keep everybody on edge. However, I think across the board, there's always been a who does what type of tension there. Now, for me, fortunately, having grown up in the sales organization, across all three companies that I've been with, it's allowed me to understand both sides of that coin. And I think in the future marketing leaders, yes, it's important to know brand and be creative and understand how to do search engine optimization and run your operations and do PR and all these other important aspects of it. But if you don't have a good relationship with sales, or you don't understand buying patterns, or you don't understand the way that competitive analysis, it's going to be very hard for you to be successful, particularly in the services industry as a leading marketer. So my advice to everyone out there is, if you don't have a sales background, then start to understand what it means to be a salesperson. Spend some time with the inside sales team. Spend some time on the road with the account managers, right? Sit in these types of meetings, QBRs, ABRs, and so on. So you can take that back to your team and say, hey, I've seen it. I know what they're working through, and vice versa. Allow the sales team, which I guess people call sales enablement, but bring them into what you're doing as well. And you have to build these relationships. They're not going to be organic. So it's to your, the overall point is you have to understand sales if you want to be in leading, driving marketing leadership in the future.
100% I agree. And with the sales is more towards the human angle. It is more to do with how you understand the problem, perceive a problem, and create a solution. And I completely agree that every team has to sit together to understand the sales process. Was there a moment in your career where collaboration between teams, completely changed the business outcome? While you were starting off from the sales, and was there a moment?
Absolutely. I think the best moments is when you have what we call large deal, or a very competitive opportunity that you're bidding against. May not be a client, maybe a small client, right? You're going to be against your top competitors. And that's where you're looking at account-based marketing to help support the deal pursuit. And so there was a time where, we had a big deal. We were not on the ground with the client. We needed to make sure that everything that we had done from a deal pursuit, technical solution perspective was lined up. But at the same time, we need to educate the buyers in a rapid way as we're going through this 3 to 6 month, process of RFI, RFP, down selection. So we started to implement not only LinkedIn ads, but advertising ads, sort of the pseudo stuff to get in the minds of the people that are evaluating all the providers. And even things like wearing name tags to the presentation, okay, where everyone expects, oh, it's a meeting, you're going to walk into all that stuff. You're not. You need to be super prepared. And that was a marketing idea. Hey, we got to bring name tags. We can't do without them. Everyone's like, ooh, hadn't thought about that. All the while, money is being spent vis-a-vis LinkedIn to make sure they're getting hit every day in the feed and they're pursuing the deals. So those, I think, are the most important examples of how you can pursue business together. When there's a sole opportunity, you have a broad idea of who the competitors are, what the client's looking for, and you guys are in super alignment on every step of the way, from what does it say on LinkedIn to what type of shirt do we wear in the meeting, to go after those types of deals. So those are the ones that I love doing, because it brings us all together end to end.
I completely agree, and that's pretty smart thinking. In your opinion, do you think enterprise growth in 2026, it's more becoming relation driven, or it is still a brand driven?
That's a good question. It's a combination of both, because relationships matter, particularly where there has been a long history of trust and engagement together. So if a client partner, spends 5 years at company X and then 5 years at company Y, they still know the buyer, right? So they can easily get some conversations going. Now, on the other hand, if you are working at a company that may do some really, really cool things, and things that when you were at company X, you weren't able to address, now you're with company Y, you're going to call your network back and say, hey, I could fix all these areas where I know you're struggling. And you're always in that situation where, oh, I didn't know that your company did that. I haven't heard about that. I wasn't sure to call you for those types of things. So it's still a combination, right? Networks are important. Networks often get you at least to the first step, but going through an empanelment process is never easy, right? And you want to try to make sure that when you're having those conversations about who you are, that's made clear up front. And it's our job as marketing folks to make sure that all the clients that we are engaging with, or potential clients, are getting some sort of understanding of who we are through other methods, not just XYZ telling client Y, hey, we have this solution. So it's both, right? You can't be an unknown entity out there. You have to have some sort of connection to who you are. And that's why I think Hitachi is a great brand for us, because we have such a long history of who we are, although we have to continue to work on the specific areas of what we do, because everybody knows Hitachi. The question is, how do you think about them in the context of some of these large, small, medium, enterprise opportunities? So But that's true for everybody, right? Not everybody knows what every provider does. It's just, the LLM might, but even that might be wrong. So, you have to be able to work both sides of that coin.
True, true. And why else these partner ecosystem are becoming so important? They always have played a very important role, but we are seeing that this, networking events, peer-to-peer connection, the past work experience where you have interacted with, the entire ecosystem, that is becoming even more important now.
100%. And I was just telling this story to somebody on my, from a B2C perspective, for me personally. So I had just made the move to switch to Verizon Fios. Now, for your earlier question about experience, talk about the most simplest process to do that. Okay, get from figuring out the cost structure, the contract structure, and then having the implementation of the hardware. And I'm speaking in IT terms, but this is what I went through. And so Verizon has done a terrific job of bundling with partners. So prior to, and I didn't know this until I started to engage with them, I was paying for Apple Music independently. I was paying for iCloud independently. I was paying for HBO Max independently. And they now are offering, they're even offering Google and Gemini and all other sorts of bundles together, Samsung gift cards, right? So everybody is going the partner route because it gives them so much more exposure to B2C conversion rates. So I then took advantage of all that and said, I'm going to save money here, here, and here. I'm going to convert my Paramount subscription to an annual one, which is going to save me 23%. This is a 3-year deal. I already have Verizon cell phone service. That'll be a multi-tier discount, on and on and on. And the partners are responsible for the branding of that as well. Everybody that's in a partner ecosystem, when they're selling a solution or a service, especially B2C, they're all bound by rules that you got to do everything right. So, let's make sure that what the partners want is exactly what B2C is looking for, and you're aligned on that. As long as you are, what a great experience I had. Another example is Delta, right? Delta partners with Uber now. So all those points work together. Delta partners with Hertz. Everything is, easy. President's Club across here, Diamond Club there. I mean, it's just partners are the way of the future, especially in the B2C world. Now, to the B2B front, there's no doubt about it. Now, we were just at Google Next. We were just at ServiceNow, Knowledge 26. We are going to Sapphire next week. So we understand the importance of all of our partners being at their events, making sure that we are, beating the drum the right way and identifying the core value that we as a partner of them bring to the table. So it's exploding. It's going to continue to get bigger because you can leverage each other's brands, each other's resources, each other's expertise to put the best piece together for the client.
Right, absolutely. And you tell me, what did this entire narration? What did that relationship teach you about leadership or trust?
So, from a leadership perspective, it shows you that you need to be at the table from a partner perspective, driving the importance of partner marketing across the board. So I think partner marketing is an area that is super important. But in some companies, if you don't have a large ecosystem, it's sort of an unknown part of what you do on a day-to-day basis. So from my perspective, the business case to increase the ecosystem because of what partner marketing can drive is something that you as a marketing leader need to push. Because sometimes the businesses may not understand that side. Now, from a trust perspective, it is, you have your paperwork, right? So everyone agrees to certain numbers and KPIs and so on. But you have to build relationships with these people, right? You have to start, you can't just view it as a transactional partner, right? There needs to be dinners and events together and one-on-ones and check-ins and sharing what you did this weekend, all these types of things that you would do on a sales side to a client. That's how you want to engage your partners too. Not transactional, did we get through X, Y, and Z? That's important, of course. But at the end of the day, I want to be able to say, I'm going to call Dave at partner X. I should know who it is off the bat. He's in my phone and I know how to get in touch with him. I know what time zone he's in, et cetera, et cetera. That's the trust you need to build. And that's a lot easier too once you get a couple wins under you, right? What were you able to do together that built that trust? But at the end of the day, it's still a people-person engagement.
Absolutely. And, that was instantly I was talking about influence and thought leadership. That, that is where you get into that entire discussion mode. So do you think that, is thought leadership today becoming more important than traditional advertising?
It depends. It depends on where you are in the market. So I see competitors' ads at airports all the time, as an example. And these are not specific to any, they're not very specific ads. They're very broad stroke. Think about the future, technology's here, listen to what's next, like that type of, brand advertising. And if you're going to be competing for that space, it's very difficult to be successful as a smaller entity, because in those instances, you're assuming that people that see that ad already have some familiarity with who they are. So it's going to reinforce to them, oh, of course, I know that vendor. For a company that's trying to build its own brand, or we should say its enterprise buyer awareness, you're going to get their attention not through advertising. It helps, of course, right? The more of a quantitative piece. But you have to get their attention by giving them something that they haven't heard, saw, read, thought of before. And the only way to do that is to develop a very stringent thought leadership practice. So here at Hitachi Digital Services, we've built up what we call the Thought Institute, which is a combination of videos, podcasts, articles, blogs, etc., that we publish across all topics. A lot of AI, of course, but things like IT, OT, ERP, and so on, where we use that to then target certain buyers to make sure they're seeing our perspective on these types of technologies that we feel is differentiating between the larger companies that may be doing very heavy brand and advertising. So the other caveat on the advertising front is, where are you doing it? So for me, buying an airport ad somewhere versus doing a campaign vis-a-vis LinkedIn, or even sort of, the way that, buying ads vis-a-vis Google to make sure it's only landing in the eyes of the right people is much more effective. So it really depends on where you are in the market in terms of size, brand understanding, and who you're targeting. So the thought leadership is super important. I will always believe it is. It has to be a main component of everything that you do within marketing.
Right. Well, you rightly mentioned that, go where your audience are, and probably LinkedIn is, something where Hitachi's, most ICPs are. But how do, brands stay authentic, where everybody in the world is creating more and more content? Everybody is creating more email marketing campaigns, more white papers, more research reports. How do brands stay authentic? Do you think it's a clarity that is needed in the thoughts to, be there?
That's a great question. And I think Hitachi is the crown jewel of that answer. Hitachi uses its history as a key piece of the storytelling, no matter what part of the world, what aspect you're selling, who you're talking to. The history of this company, between its IT, its OT, its digital engineering, its AI history, its founder, is a part of everything. And that's where, when you think about everything that gets produced and sold, there is always a connection to the way history of Hitachi played a role in all that. And there is a level of proudness, but also humility that the history of how we evolved as an organization plays a role in everything that we do. Not every organization does that, because a lot of times there is short-term thinking in marketing because they need to hit this number and do that and make that KPI and land that client. Yes, we're all doing our short-term KPIs, but you have to do that here within this nexus of the history of Hitachi. So for us, it's been a key component to where there's even a museum in Japan, which is still running the engine that was built over 100 years ago by the founder and the team there. So that matters, and more organizations, I think, need to start adopting their history as a part of who they are, because it shows great storytelling.
Right. And I agree on to that. But what holds the future of modern marketer? Probably say if a young marketer asked you how to stay relevant in the AI era, what would you tell them to focus on?
Well, one, they need to get a clear handle on AI. I think The Economist wrote the article about a year ago that said your biggest competitor is not going to be AI, it's going to be a human with AI. So one, you need to get a very good handle on how to leverage AI in your daily careers. And for marketing purposes, most of that is a generative AI area, at least early on. But certainly there's ways to leverage agents, and there's ways to leverage some of the more creative work and creative tools and so on. But at the end of the day, that's the most important piece. You need to embrace this, right? And I'm assuming, right, that universities are pushing this onward and upward in terms of leveraging AI as it relates to what you want to do in your professional career. That's number one. The second piece is you have to be flexible. You need to understand depth in several different areas if you want to be competitive in the market. So, we just had somebody join us who has a solid operational background. He is now learning the ropes of the partner marketing team. So, low 20s out of school, is going to walk away, within a year's time, understanding ops, partner marketing, and works closely on special projects. So when you get into organizations, which is always the tricky part, I know, that's where you need to really work on diversifying all the types of things that you understand, because things are going to continue to change quick, and you need to be able to adapt to that. So don't think that you're only a creative person. Our creative team here understands everything about the ins and outs of the website, not just how to design things, right? Our analyst team knows the corporate marketing world. Our revenue team is combined with the portfolio stuff. So all of these different functions are key. And when it comes to things like content, right, you got to know how to be able to put together the differences between white papers, blogs, reading trends, who's reading what, SEO, GEO, ATS, all these things. So my advice is always be diverse, have one or two areas where you have depth, but understand what's going on around you, because that will always help you in the future.
Right. That's a very interesting perspective. But adding to that, what human skills do you think are becoming more valuable because of AI?
What human skills are becoming more valuable because of AI? So there's definitely helps with research and understanding research, because certain times people learn differently, right? And the author of a journal ad is going to write the journal ad the way they want to write it. Some, they may not have the patience to go through 35 pages, upload, cliff notes, got it. And hopefully the tool that you're working with in AI has some sort of understanding of, they know how you like to learn. So they'll give you the summary and the executive work that way, right? Accustomed to your learning style. So it helps people absorb and learn, I think, a lot better. More so because you're not constricted to a certain way of presenting information anymore. And that's important in marketing because, everyone in marketing is intro, extro, A, B, the spectrum of Clifton strengths and so on. So AI helps sort of attune the material to get around that. I think it's also strengthening. It's forcing us to be more critical in the way that we think, because we cannot allow the first prompt to be the only prompt, right? We have to be able to work with these tools to make sure, one, what they're sending you is factually true, because we know that doesn't happen all the time, and that logically, persuasion, creativity, right? This is all built into these responses, and you have to be the critical eye against it. So yes, it's compressing production timeline, but you still need to be the hands on the ground, ensuring what's being produced is meeting standards, and that's creating a lot of critical thinking across this one. So I would say those are two ones that stick out.
Absolutely. And in your which part? This is a very, this is a reflection question. Which part of your own leadership philosophy has changed, over most of the years? Because, we have seen pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, rise of LLM from the traditional way of doing B2B. So, which part of your own leadership philosophy has changed over these years?
So for me, I think there was hesitancy to use AI to do certain things. And I don't want us to get stuck in production ruts because we're trying to do everything ourselves, right? For me, service delivery internally for our clients is the number one important piece of what we do on a day-to-day basis, right? Responding to internal requests, producing campaigns, making sure that the end-to-end life cycle of anything that marketing takes on for us internally is done at a green delivery level. And I think there was hesitancy in the beginning on how do we leverage AI within this pipeline of deliverables to do that. So I'm always pushing the team now to leverage AI, use it to help you be productive. And I think you have to keep reminding everybody that, because there's still this bit of hesitancy over, do I need to do it, or should I offload this? But I think we've gotten past that. Like I said, we're very, very active with AI. But I think there's, I'll give you an example. We did a workshop at a client, myself, our CTO, and so on. And it was a very mixed audience in terms of baby boomer through Gen Z or millennial broad.
Yeah.
And the presentation before we went on was somebody who worked at one of the hyperscalers and was very bold in the presentation about, we're going to end up with iRobot and so on and so forth, right? The future from a tech side. And I think there was a little bit of like, whoa, didn't expect that coming. So we had to really ground the audience. And my first comment to them was, remember, folks, we still get confused as to which remote to use to change the television and increase the input. So don't worry about, the way that AI is going to take over your career in the next 30 days. And I think there's still a lot of, I wouldn't call it resistance, but unknowingness about how does this work for me on a day-to-day basis. So as a leader, you have to work within your organization to make sure that your team is comfortable, that they feel safe, that they see that it's adding value. And, the key thesis of that workshop we did was, we will help you all walk through this in your respective roles and show you how it brings value. So, you just have to, it's almost like the invisible hand now that you need to also think about that you're managing when you go through this.
I completely agree. And, it is about that learning curve, or experimenting or experiencing it for the first hand. And, that is where, you get more comfortable doing it.
100%.
At the end of the day, what do you think a great marketing is all about? If we on the B2B side.
So for me, success comes by picking an area that you want to dominate, a set of buyers, a couple industries, a couple service offerings, figuring out your value prop, figuring out your discipline methodology to get there, working the delivery process to get everything ready, and launching it and never looking back. Now, learning from mistakes and making tweaks, yes. But at the end of the day, okay, you want to be full speed ahead on what's agreed between you and the go-to-market, the sales, the executive leadership team. Everyone's on the same page. Everything is, seen to be you can accomplish that goal. And you have some of your pie in the sky stuff like everybody does. But at the end of the day, you want to be able to go after what you can capture, and you want to capture it. And that's how I would view a success of a marketing team working aligned with all the other key pieces, whether it's solutioning, sales enablement, go to market, all the way to the end of the day, signing that contract for that win.
Perfect. All right, Peter. This was great insights. Let's move on to the next segment, which is quick, rapid fire.
Sure.
All right. No overthinking. Whatever comes to your mind, you have to say it at the first go. Are you ready?
Ready to go.
All right. AI creates more noise or more opportunities?
Opportunity.
Relationship building or automation?
Relationship building.
Perfect. One marketing matrix, people are obsessed too much.
That's a good one. I would say it's an overemphasis on the digital aspect of what you're doing.
Which means, more of social media presence, more of digital distribution of content rather than the traditional, which is more events and physical meetings.
You got to have a balance, and you can't overemphasize on digital.
Right. Yeah, because, digital has a very short span of time. You are not able to recall. With so much of content being created, pushed, on our phones, everywhere, the recall is very less.
That's where the noise is coming from, for sure.
Yep. One leadership trait every marketer needs to have.
You need to have discipline. You need to believe in what you put together. You need to believe in your team. And you need to stay grounded in all of what you do. You cannot be somebody who changes paths, left and right, changes procedures, moves people around. You have to be disciplined. You have to keep the team feeling like they're part of a machine that's working. And the only way to do that is to be a disciplined, grounded leader.
Amazing. And, on the contrary, one thing young marketers underestimate.
Talk and network. It still matters. Take advice from those who have done the job that you are looking for 5 years, 30 years. Go out and be sociable and talk to these people at conferences. Jump when you're working. Take advantage of every opportunity to be on the road. Be engaged in events. Be a part of internal events. Don't allow messages and texting and this whole digital euphoria of engagement now to be the only way that you're going to learn about what you want to do in life. You need to hear it. You need to see people. You need to meet them, because the relationship building is still critical. And the role of marketing within the front office of what happens on the go-to-market side is more important than ever. So get out there and talk.
Perfect. Usually we say, pick up the phone and dial. That's how you're going to get those conversations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Podcast or webinars, your preferred?
So podcasts are good on the thought leadership side. Webinars are certainly good on the on the demand gen side. So you need to have a good balance of both. I think webinars need to be very, very focused, because they allow you to go after a certain audience with a certain solution. Podcasts can be very similar to what we've done. We've talked about probably 6 different areas now of topics, because it gives people a little bit of an outlet to listen to things that they need some relief from their car ride, driving, whatever it might be. So you need a balance, but the methodology in which you produce them needs to be clear on both sides.
100%, I agree. One habit that keeps you grounded.
I worked in a union when I was younger for 8 years.
Mhm.
And being in a union,
Wow.
you have this is a non-marketing job, of course. This is in the blue collar space. You have a sense of community of who you work with. And there is hierarchy, of course, but everybody should be a phone call away, right? Everybody should be easily approachable. Everybody will step up when someone is, out of work, on the road, whatever it might be. And for me, taking that sort of approach in my leadership has what kept me grounded, because everybody believes that if I need help, I meaning, any of them, that we will all step up and make it happen. And when you don't have that level, when you don't have that safety net feeling, you cannot be grounded. So for me, that's been a big, influence on the way that I manage, is having, been in a union situation for almost a decade.
What a beautiful example, Patrick. Beautiful example. Yeah, and thank you for such a thoughtful conversation. For me, the last segment and before that, it was pure wisdom. That comes only from experiencing or living the life. What really stood out for me in the entire conversation, while AI is rapidly changing, the way marketing team thinks, the human side of the business, which is trust, relationship, and authentic connection, is becoming more valuable. The future of marketing may not belong to the loudest brands, but to the ones with people genuinely trust and want to interact. And for listeners who want to, learn or connect with you and more about, Hitachi Digital Services is building globally, where do they find you?
Do they find me?
Yeah.
Well, I like to be on the road a lot, so I'll probably see you at an airport. But I'm based in New York, so it's a great epicenter to get wherever I need to be. This week I'm going to Vietnam and India. Last week was LA and Vegas. So spending time on the ground with the teams has been great. But I think a lot of marketers need to be on the road too. They need to be a part of what's happening. It's a big piece of that.
Mm-hmm. All right. Perfect. It was great having you, Patrick, today. It is amazing to talk to you and understand your perspective.
Yeah, this has been great. Looking forward to maintaining and continuing our dialogue.
Absolutely. And thank you, everyone, for listening, joining. We'll be back soon with more conversations from the leaders that are shaping the future of enterprise marketing, AI, business transformation. Until then, see you. Bye-bye.
We are signing off from this episode of Data Demand, but the journey doesn't end here. Stay tuned to Martech 360 for more insights and strategies that can help you master the Martech landscape.